Okay. Hello. So my name is Jessica, and I'm a programmer in Monster Couch. And here is my friend Dominika.
Yes, so I'm Dominika. I'm doing interface design and game design and user experience design in Monster Couch. And yeah, and some graphic design too.
So as we said before, we work in Monster Couches. This is the company from Poznań, so we are here, and our goal is to create adaptations of board games. And currently, we are working on two games. Wingspan, which is released, and we are working on DLC right now, Oceania Expansion, and we have a game, Quilts and Cuts of Calico, which is still in development.
Coming out soon.
Yes. But we will focus on Wingspan.
Yeah, so currently we're developing new expansion. It's second one. It's called Oceania Expansions, and we adding a lot of new features like new cards, like almost 100 new cards, and new mechanics and the game systems. So it's quite challenging for us, and we'll be talking about things we're adding in this expansion today.
So first of all, you have to understand what is a decision, because it's something new for PC players, console players. Because when you play board games, you have to make many decisions. And decision is actually something that makes you happy because you score points. And decision is actually step-by-step action that you have to do just to gain what you want. So here you have a screenshot from our board game. Yes, so it's original version. And we have to choose if we want to discard one seed to gain 2x. So this is the decision, and it's very easy if you have a board game in front of you, because you can just see and think what you are going to do next. But if you want to play board game on PC, for example, it's very different.
Yeah, so here's an example how this bird card decision looks in our game. So we make two panels from one card, and we divided a copy in two two panels for the player to understand like faster and to make it more game like, not board game like, but computer game like. So yeah. Okay. So for our company, it's really important to make the process of translating from board game to video game as much invisible for the player as we can, but we want to guide them. So, for example, here we have a number of eggs, maximum number of eggs that you can lay. You don't need to lay all of them, but you can lay a maximum of two. So you don't need to think about it how much you can lay eggs. And yeah, here's like copy, and we added icons so it's easier for players to understand it. Yep. Yeah, so here's this gamification. So as I was saying before, here's a card, here's a whole copy for it, and there's the panels that we made from this bird card. And yeah, it's like a process of translating something physical to game design, which is quite different from board game design. And we want to translate the best we can to players that don't play it before a board game to understand it.
So now, if you know what is the decision, we can go further and see the Kanban. And this is actually our flow that we made to make it simple to work together, because this is the process that we have to do together. Dominika has to prepare some kind of art, some kind of UI, UX, and I have to implement it into the game. I have to write the code. And if we have one bird, as you can see, for example, panel and flow sketch, This is the process where we start and we go through each iteration to get full decision into the game.
Yeah, so for example, we it took us some time to put the Kanban in this layout, because it's really important for us not to not have programmer and designer work at the same time on the same decision. So the first two, the yellow ones, are the things that designer do. The blue ones are the things that programmer do. And this one, we actually doing it all together. So the whole team is involved. So the first two I'm doing. Next, the whole team is reviewing the decision. Then programmer starts to doing some code. Then I'm doing a prefab in Unity, and then I'm turning over to a programmer who is implementing my prefabs into the game. Yeah. So before we even touch Unity Designer to design one decisions, the first thing I do, I need to look at the card of a bird and understand what it says. And yeah, sometimes if the birds have a really simple power, I only read it, think about all the corner cases, and move over. But in Oceania, we have birds then that have really complicated decisions. So when it have a lot of things that the bird can do, I usually play the game before I even start designing anything. Yeah. So when I understand the bird and know all the things that he can do and interplay with other birds, then I'm starting to doing a wireframe. This is a first wireframe. It's only for me because no one understands what it says. Yeah, so I'm only designing here here I want to be a buttons somewhat this size, and here's the copy. And then when I'm done with this wireframe, I make it prettier for everyone to understand, because I want to get as more feedback as I can. So I make it more game-like for everyone. Yeah, so I am adding a ready copy for this and a copy on the buttons. And then I'm making whole prototype, working prototype, which, yeah, oh, yeah. Before I made really prototype, yeah, I need to look into similar panels, because we have a lot of decision. Right now we're going close to 300, I think. Yeah, so we have a lot of similar panels. So for example, these two panels, for me, they are the same. Code-wise, they are whole another thing, but for me as a designer, I need to find the panels that are similar and make the flow of them the same, for the player to not feel different when they click through same panels, for the game experience to stay the same. So when I found these panels and check with them if the flow is the same, then I can show my team working prototype. So here's a GIF, but it's actually clickable prototype. And everyone in my team can click through it, and every step of it they can judge and give me feedback for it. So yeah. So then when they say it's okay, it's great, the decision is working, I finally can open Unity editor and start working in it. We have so much decision, so we have really prefabs for buttons and things. So I'm making it fit in and look like prefabs I made in Figma before. I'm adding the copy. Sometimes I need to change some icons or sizes. Yeah, but when I'm done, I'm setting as well. I'm setting the buttons if the buttons are buttons or toggles, and I'm doing it. And when I'm done, I'm handing it over to programmer on Kanban, and my work here is done.
Okay, so when I have the prefab, I have to actually check some steps to understand what's going on because I didn't see much before. And the first step is understanding decision rules. Yes, so it is what I said before. I have to understand what the bird does and what I have to implement. The second step is to familiarizing with the flow. So with the flow that Domi made and prepared for me. The third step is to make research because, as we said, we have like 300 decisions in game. So there is no way that they are all different. We have some similarities with other decisions. We have birds with the same powers, and it's okay. So we have to just check if we have something in the code because there is no, there is no chance to remember everything. So you have to base on your research. Then is preparing scripts. If I didn't find anything connected to the power I have to prepare another scripts. Maybe they will be connected, but we will see. And then I take the prefab and I have to connect my script. I have to connect buttons, other UI elements, and make working decision. But this is a great way to just stack, and this is how it really works. Let's take the example of red-winged parrot. We have to give one nectar from our supply to other players. So this is the first decision. Yes, you have to choose the player that you want to give your food from supply. Then you have to decide if you want to lay 2 eggs or gain 2 food from your bird feeder. And the first step is, of course, as we said before, understanding decision rules. So I said we have 3 different ways how we want to do that. Then we have the second step that we have to familiarize with the flow. And here is a difference because then I realized that something is not right, that the flow is different than the rest of the game. And this is the moment that I should do it and say, okay, designer prepared that and it's fine. We go further with no clue. But it doesn't work like that. So then we find the problem. I know what's the problem. I know that something is not working as the rest of the game. So we have an emergency call. And this is a very important step because if we don't talk, we don't have any chance to prepare better design for people. And sometimes, as I said, it's really helpful to just go to another person, call her, or just talk together during dinner even, just to take the opportunity of taking communication and making everything better. Because actually, we understand our games. Yes, we make them so we know what is going on. But let's just swap the places with the players. They have to understand it without other instructions that we can, for example, make for us. Yes. So then I decided to call Domi and tell her that we have to go back to our decision.
Yeah, so it's usually start with like crying for help. Uh, yeah, so it's not don't always go so smooth. And then like we talk it over. Jesse is telling me, or other programmer is telling me what they think we should change. It sometimes looks like that. Sometimes it's only like talking. But here's, for example, we had buttons, and programmer tells me he thinks that should be changed to toggles, and then we need to add the next button because for the player, when you have buttons here, you cannot go back and change your decisions. So with the toggles, we give player more like time to make a decision. So they can like click a toggle here and think about it and maybe changes to something else. And with the buttons, it only like click and you're done. So, yep. So when I'm given like the notes from the programmer, I usually need to see into decision tree, which I made before, and I need to check with it if it changes something with it, because this cannot be changed. This needs to look like that, and it's like you're using a build power, then you choose the build power causes you to choose player. Here's a first player decision, so you're choosing a player, then you paying the cost, so you losing nectar then when you choose a player, and then you making second decision as a player to lay eggs or to gain food. So here's, as you see, the notes from the programmer doesn't change anything here. So it doesn't like move any of the things around. So I can think about it. Yeah. So next thing is talking it over once more, because the talking is most important thing in our process. And I don't know.
This is very, very difficult for people. I know from my experience that people are afraid of talking to another guy, another professionalist, that something is wrong and they have to change that. So we decided to make a better process to work together and to just split two-person, my personality and my programmer's personality. We are two different persons actually, because I shouldn't take to me that something works bad, or she shouldn't be afraid that I say something wrong for her. It's only for her design for now.
Yeah. So as a designer, you need to like separate your designs from your work, because if someone has like opinions about your designs, it doesn't mean you're a bad designer, but like everyone makes mistakes or doesn't see something or anything. So you have to like separate this and think about the design like a product, not like a thing you done. Yep.
Yes, and now when you saw the suggestions, those were suggestions from me that I saw there were buttons instead of toggles. We have toggles, and this is very important. I will just go back to this place. In board games, you can change your decision. Yes, if you play with your friends, your family, you can always change your decision. Of course, if you didn't finish your move. But there is a problem that, for example, let's imagine that those are buttons and you click them. And for example, you just lay two eggs and you can't just change your mind. It's not helpful because it's a video game and players are a bit different. They have different habits that they do while playing. So if the rest of the game is based on toggles, we had to just put toggles here and the next button, which will indicate that you will go further, and then you will also have a chance to go back and make decision again.
Yeah. So if we talk it over and I decided that the suggestions are good suggestions, because it's not always are. And I have the final decisions because I am a designer. I'm usually, so here's before, like it looked before, and here's after. So if I'm implementing it, I need to like add things, change the button, how it's behaves, and add the next button, because in toggles you have to have that. It maybe not look like a much different, but from the player's perspective, it changes a lot. You have to click more, so it's not always intuitive to do that. But when you designing board game into the computer game, you need to think that about the players, and that the players need to have place to think about it. And the toggles gave them the place to think about the decisions that they will make, and they can't unchange.
So when we are talking about it, it shouldn't be like this is a bad design. We have to just throw it out. No, I have to make suggestions that are valuable for my designer because I understand what is going just under this beautiful art. But there is also a chance that my designer can just reject my suggestions. Why? Because she's a designer, yes. I can suggest. I can't tell her that something is really, really bad because I don't like it. Yes? We have to trust that people who we are working with, they are professionals like us. So it's often very, very strange that people don't want to talk. I understand that we don't like to take criticism for us, but we have to sometimes just talk. And we are actually talking about talking because communication is something what really helps us to keep Wingspan in this state. So we understand that only together as a team, and not only programmer, designer, but also with quality assurance, with level designers, game designers, artists, we can make a great game.
Yes, so you can go back for.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to add something because, like Jesse said, like he makes suggestions for me, and I have more insight than anybody else because I have wireframes, I have decisions tree, I have like spent time with the decision. So sometimes the suggestions may be like looking good for anybody else, but when I'm looking in like a, I don't know, like a decision tree, and I'm seeing that that the suggestions is changing something, um, I go back to them and say like, okay, you have good point, but we cannot do it because something.
It is very important just to, think about mistakes because they happen, just happen, and it's normal. So we shouldn't be, angry for each
Yeah,
other.
it's not always mistakes. Yeah, sometimes it's something like I have an idea, but later in the process, sometimes someone else have a better idea. So it's not like
Yes.
mistake, but not thinking about something, and yeah.
Okay, so here you can see a flow,
Yep.
and Tommy will say for the first panel, this is the first decision that you choose the player.
Yeah, yeah. So here, as you see, this is the first part of it. So here's the choose the player. And here's we have a copy for that, and you can choose the players. Here we have a toggles as well, so you can think about like which other player you like the most and choose them. And the next one is the part that we change. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So here's the toggles that we've changed, and you can choose what you wanna do, or do you need X more now, or do you need food more now? It depends where are in the game you are. And yeah, you wanna add something?
Yes, and this is very important thing to mention that you don't have to do that actually. For example, here you can skip the decision. You can skip the entire decision. You won't lose your nectar. You won't gain food or lay eggs. So it is like in a board game. You can always skip your decision and do not activate this bird. And the second thing is that here you make the second decision if you want to lay eggs or gain food, and you can also change your mind if you go to the next panel. But what is important, as you can see, many birds probably lay eggs or gain food. So this is only the part we prepared for this bird. But now we can use modular building UI and decisions in code that are very, very similar to other birds. And we have gaining food, laying eggs. This is very common in Wingspan. So we just use decisions that were made before. Because as you can see in habitats, those are the floating elements on UI, we have different actions. We can, for example, lay eggs, yes? So this is a very basic decision you make. So we don't have to write another script, we don't have to prepare another panel, we just connect decisions together. And we have a better flow, and less work to do. And here you can see that we have gaining food, and as I said before, it's very similar. All right, so we have pros of actually talking about flow. Flow matches the rest of the game. So we have similarities, and the players like that they don't have to think too much how something works. They just play, and everything is ready to be, to be done by players without thinking of the flow. And the most important thing here is that player habits are taken into considerations. Because, for example, if we have a game like Wingspan released 3 years ago, player just are used to play in a common way of playing that we made for the first release of the game. So if we are making new DLCs, we have to just take in considerations that they are used to something. Of course, maintaining consistency, it's very simple. We are able to notice redundancies, so we know that we make, for example, too much, or we didn't make something what is important. And quality of the game increases. Team play is better than solo play, so remember we are teams, and it's profitable for us. But there are, of course, cons.
Yeah, so cons. Taking up more time. Yeah, so it takes more time because you need to iterate it, and it's working hours. Yeah, so next thing is both sides needs to be involved. Yeah, so for example, like when I iterate the design, I need to go into it and change some things, and then a programmer needs to go into a code and write some new one because the new decision doesn't matches the old one. So it's taking more time of both sides. Yeah, and the last one is, yeah, so as I said, sometimes some of our work done needs to be done once more, or even we have some situations when we need to scrap everything and start from the beginning. But overall, yeah, I think the cons, like you see, there are less of them. So, yep.
How can you do it better? We decided to share with you our ways that we come here to this place where we are. So the first thing is,
yeah, documentations for creating prefabs. Documentations is really important because we started doing Wingspan like a really small team, and we doesn't have documentations. And when I start working here, it's sometimes lacking because documentation is like you can't remember everything. Even if you done it yourself, you need to have documentation for everyone to understand it, and for you to understand it if you done something year ago and then need to add something to it, and you open the prefab and you don't know what's happening in there because you doesn't remember anymore.
team review. It's also very important. If you are not sure or you just want to know the opinion of other guys, just go to them. They have time for you. It's not like you work only for yourself. You have guys who will help you and who will give you suggestions, for example, or even just an opinion. And you don't have to agree even, but there is a discussion then. And you can think about something new, something better.
Yeah, so for the team review, we as a team, when we've done the bird cards, we gather a lot of them, then sit with everybody on our review, and for an hour or something, even two, we look into every single decision of the bird we have, and everyone can say anything they want about it.
So we have more frequent consultations between designers and programmers.
Yeah. So this really, you need to establish it, because sometimes a designer or a programmer doesn't want to talk about something because they think it's really not important. And the consultations are really important because sometimes your ideas is not that good, and sometimes it's like brilliant. So don't be scared of talking with someone else on your team, and consult with them if you cooperate on some work.
And make deep research, because, for example, we had a situation where I prepared 2 decisions. They were actually the same, okay? I just made it twice to have more tasks done, after 2 weeks sprint. No, I'm joking. We just didn't notice that 2 birds are the same, yes? And we made it twice because there was a gap between them. It was not like one day, second day we made 2 birds. It was like 3 months. You don't remember it. So we just made it twice, and we have to do deep research then.
Yeah, double checking is really important, and it happens a lot because not like in game design, you're never working alone on anything, and even if you are, it helps to check again something, because sometimes you doesn't like see the thing or something. So everybody in our team is like needs to check, then do thing and check again when it's done, if it's working well. And even if you double check, someone else can triple check for you.
Yes, and of course I have to add that I'm mostly UI programmer, but I don't trust myself if it comes about design, for example. Yes, I implemented something, I can see that it's working and it's quite nice, but I don't see, that the check mark has a different color than the rest of the check marks in the game. I don't see that the button is lower or higher than it should be. So is it really good to have double check from both sides? Yes. My designer will also play this game, and she will check if my code implementation, so actually the flow, works as she wanted to do it. Yeah, so we would like to thank you for listening, and yeah, we will have a second for questions. So thank you so much. We were a bit stressed,
Thanks.
but yeah. Yeah, so that was actually our first talk here. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you here. And if you have any questions, we have a little time to answer. So any question? Oh, okay. Yes.
Not talking.
I think that the problem is that sometimes we work in different hours, for example, and sometimes we don't know actually if we are busy. Because if you are in the office, you see that another person is just busy doing something very important. You don't want to go and say, okay, now you have to pay attention to my problem. But working remotely is hard because you don't see it. So you have to just write a message. But please don't write hi and wait until I respond hi and then tell the problem. Just go ahead with your problem in the first message. It's much easier. So this is my advice.
Yeah, I was like really scared at first when I was working remote to write to anyone, because I always think like, oh no, they're working really hard right now.
We are
for
working
sure.
as well. All right.
Yeah, so you need to not be scared of people.
So the next question, please.
Hi, I was wondering if you did any reviews of the flow of the Kanban board as it was going through, to see if there was any points of congestion where some advanced or like some more investment in tooling would help, for example, the designer implement more things on their own. And what your workflow for that was to spot those kind of opportunities to smoothen the workflow.
Yes, so actually we came up during the Kanban with the modular design of the decisions. So we have like a base design. If the decisions, like for example, the decisions we've made before, like with buttons, we have a modular design. So we have base decisions with the buttons with the text, and we are like doing a sub prefabs for that. I don't know if it is you want.
Yeah, we can adjust it, and it was the idea that came from the Kanban. And the other idea is that we don't have to wait with prefabs, actually, because the first step, if you remember or not, I will remind you, was AI implementing for birds. So we don't have to actually wait. Dominika doesn't have to wait for me when I'm making AI. She can prepare prefabs.
Yeah, I didn't know that from
Yeah.
the start.
Yes. Thank you. So the next question.
Hi, thanks for the great talk.
Thank you.
I really like the idea that a designer is able to create prefabs, but they are still static prefabs. And I hope that you could tell us more about how you handle animations for the UI, because it's always like a thing that we struggle with. That designer wants to be pleased with animation, but he or she isn't able to do animation themselves.
I am actually making animation myself mostly, so I don't have this problem. But Wingspan have 2 years now, or 3 years? 3 years, yeah. So most of the animation is already there, and I don't always like them, and I can't change them. So I'm adjusting them some. I'm changing some colors or something to look at more like I want to. But yeah, like we have some situations not in prefabs, but in, I think, implementing Nectar, I think, when a programmer was adding animations. So we have talked about it, and he sent me the animations and like asks me if it's okay, should I add something, and we talk about it, and we figure it out. So yeah.
And
Yes.
what tool do you use?
I animate in Unity.
Okay, so you're using like a built-in solution for animations, right? In Unity.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and
I'm
Spline as well.
So you're using also Spine, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Spline.
okay.
Yeah, but mostly I'm animating on the keyframes in Unity, so
Okay,
the
thank you.
easiest one.
Yes. So do you have any questions to us? We have time for one more, so I encourage you to ask something. Okay. Okay. So it's everything. Thank you so much once again, and have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.